Breaking news, the Federal Reserve leaving interest rates unchanged. But the Fed did note progress on inflation and indicated that a long-awaited rate cut may be coming in September. I am joined now by ABC News business reporter Alexis Christoforous, along with Elizabeth Schulze in Washington. Alexis, let's start with you. Break down for us what we heard from the Fed chairman today and what it says about kind of what our economy looks like right now.
So this wasn't a great surprise. Most were expecting the Fed to do nothing with interest rates today, but they were hoping the Fed would tee up a rate cut in September. That's exactly what they did. The Fed acknowledging that inflation is moving closer to that 2% level that we've been talking about, but also really honed in on the fact that the labor market has started to cool, which means that there really aren't inflationary pressures coming from the labor market. What does this mean? It opens the pathway for an interest rate cut come September, and it would be the first cut we had since the pandemic. Of course, that would lower borrowing costs for things like mortgage rates, auto loans, and credit cards.
September, very close to the election. Elizabeth, what could a September rate cut mean when it comes to the race for the White House?
Long-awaited rate cut, the more political it becomes, right, Eva? And the fact is, a rate cut would be beneficial for a lot of households. Lower borrowing costs are generally beneficial for consumers and businesses who are trying to take out loans. So there has been some criticism from Republicans, including former President Trump, who suggests September is not the time to do that, to give the economy kind of that juice as they head into the election. But we just heard Fed Chair Powell take this question head on, and he said very clearly the Fed is not taking politics into account. It operates independently of Congress, of the White House. It does not want those political considerations to factor into its decision. And what Fed Chair Powell said is they're looking at the data. They're looking at this picture that shows that inflation is improving, that the jobs market is maybe cooling down a little bit, and that if September is the best time to kind of take that step and lower rates, that's what they will ultimately decide, though he did make clear that they have not made a decision officially yet.
All right. So, Alexis, you heard Elizabeth mention it. You mentioned it earlier. They're saying that inflation is improving, but you talk to people and they are not feeling it yet. So when will we start feeling that improvement in inflation?
Right. So if a rate cut happens, it would be 1/4 of a point. That's what most economists seem to be agreeing on. It could happen in September and again at the December meeting. You really need a number of those rate cuts to pile up before the regular average person would really feel it in their wallets. What you might start to see more immediately is a bit of a jump, of a move down for credit card interest rates, but things like mortgage rates might take a little longer. We've seen some rates come down in anticipation of what the Fed's expected to do in the fall. I do want to, though, have us hear what Fed Chair Powell said just moments ago regarding sort of this dual mandate, trying to get inflation lower, but keeping the job market somewhat strong. Let's take a listen.
The labor market has come into better balance, and the unemployment rate remains low. Inflation has eased substantially from a peak of 7% to 2.5%. We are strongly committed to returning inflation to our 2% goal in support of a strong economy that benefits everyone.
It's always a balancing act, right? They don't want to cut interest rates too soon and have inflation rear its ugly head again, but they don't want to start, cutting interest or leaving interest rates high for too long, and that would sort of squeeze the economy and could start to hurt us overall. So it's a balancing act. It looks as though the Fed today gave its clearest signal yet that that's going to happen in September.
Yeah, you're trying to keep the seesaw balanced. You don't want one side to go flying up or the other side.
Absolutely.